Hi, I'm Patty with Studio R12 Stencils, and today I am going to teach you so many cool techniques. We are going to learn about layering. We are going to learn how to base coat with red, which is, I don't know if you've ever tried it, but it is terrible to do, but I've got some shortcuts. Whether you're an advanced painter or a beginning stenciler, or anywhere in between, we've got something for you in this lesson today, and we've got a big surprise at the end, so you want to stay tuned to the very end. All right, guys, here we go. I hope that you are ready for how much stuff we have to show you today, because this is packed with things to learn. If you're joining us on Facebook, make sure that you like, share, or comment to get into our giveaway drawings for our dome brush sets, which are the best way not to bleed under your stencil. And we have a grand prize. Let me just hide the project. Our grand prize drawing is going to be for a 7-piece stencil set. I moustache you to be mine. And I like you a lot. We have big and little sizes of all these things. We're a cool stencil company like that because we know the frustration of needing a stencil in just the right size. This one is the little mason jar with the bees in it. And then we have a bee mine. We have a lot of bee stencils on the website. I think it's super interesting. We can't show you everything. We can't paint everything. We can't do a live on everything. We can't answer questions on everything, but I want to show you at least like some of the stuff coming out. I need some more friends like you. So we have things for the loved ones. We have things for your best friends. We have things for your house. A heart stencil. And then this one is my very favorite, so I saved it for last. It's a 2-part stencil, but when you layer it, it says, "I love how weird we are," and it has 2 little monsters. How cute would that be in a kid's room or anything like that? So anyway, if you like, share, or comment, you're going to be entered into the drawing for this stencil set or brush stencil. This is the grand prize. These are the regular prizes. Anyway, and then if you're catching us on the Play It Again live question answer session this evening, you can like, share, and comment on that one too. And then if you're catching this later, then you might be on YouTube. And so if you're there, make sure to like and then click the bell so that you get notified when we have new things to say. All right, so let's dive in. We've got a little Valentine special. We know Valentine's not for everybody, but I'm gonna show you how you can apply these techniques to anything that you're doing. This is our project today. And I think that what I love about it is we've gotten some 3D stuff. We're gonna be doing some glittering. We've got a 3D piece cutout, but we've stenciled on that. We have taken this that is normally this size stencil and put it on a great big tag. We've added an embellishment bow. You can put this outside by your door. And big surprise at the end of this video, we're gonna have our interior designer, Carrie, come on the stage, and we're going to have her show us how to make these simple bows like this. So you want to stay tuned to the end if you've ever had frustration making bows. We're also going to bring in another stencil, which is the buffalo plaid, which looks good in any season. It looks good in babies' rooms, it looks good at Christmas, it looks good at Valentine's, Easter is amazing. So this is where we're going, and there's a lot of technique in this. I'm going to show you how to base red, all the things. Let's get started. Okay, so first I want to talk about the size of the stencils. So this stencil, you actually can get it with the cutout of with the truck stencil on it, but this, I just wanted to show you, if I made it and it was that size, that's what that would look like. I think by adding the embellishments, I think it just makes it like so much more, and I love that tag shape. So we've taken it and we've combined it in a really different way and made it bigger. Okay, so the very first thing you're going to do is you're going to base your tag surface. Years and years ago, if you were going to put this outside, so if you're going to have it by your front door, you want to seal your wood. This is an MDF. It's extremely hard pressed, glued together board. I've had one out by my fire pit, like under the porch where the rain can hit it, for 3 years now. My husband made it in a class, a workshop that he came to. And it's absolutely still fine. The colors are good and everything. It didn't get varnished and it didn't get sealed, nothing. So, but if I was doing something I was gonna love, I would varnish it. So just for that. And then if you were gonna varnish it, you could do a multi-purpose sealer under, do your paint, and then do a polyurethane on top. Okay, so we're gonna start with a foam brush. This is a poly brush. These are, if you've gone to some of the cheaper stores, maybe dollar type stores, whatever versions there are, they flop a lot and they just really bend. The cheaper your poly brush is, this is Poly is the brand of this, you want to get one that has a good body to it. So I just want to show for the beginners out there how you base your board. I see a lot of messes that can be made. So when you are basing, you're going to pull your brush and you're going to flip off at the end, because I personally don't want to have to paint this whole edge. So I just want to whisk it off my edge, and I'm going to do very thin coats. We always say that stencils are a layers game. That's our quote from Lena. Anyway, so because it's a layers game, you can do thin coats. If you get too, like, let's go here, right? If we do it too thick, you're going to see ridges, ridges, ridges. And so you just want to just thin it out, nice thin coat, blow dry it, and then come back to it. So I'm not going to show you how to do this whole thing. I just wanted to show you that you can base and not make a mess. And if I did make a mess, then what I might do is go back with some dark color. This is a laser cut edge, so this is just nice and finished, and it's hard fired, and so I like it that way. And if I was varnishing at the end, I would varnish around the edges as well. You make like a little varnish sandwich. Okay, so I've got one finished, or one started. And this is our little cutout. So many things to show you. Okay, so now that we've gotten started, tell us where you're at, where you're from. What level of painter are you? Like, are you from Iowa and you're an advanced painter? I wanna know. I wanna know what kind of things we gotta pull out of our hat to make you be able to learn all the things. All right, so we are going to add the buffalo check on the stencil, on the surface, sorry. I've already got this one done because that's a lot of buffalo checking. And then this one, I'm just gonna show you how to do it. And did I? Okay, I had it centered on a open square. So I'm using my stencil to line up the edge. And then I wanna make, so see that little corner right there? That little corner right there, we want that to be even. Okay, and I'm only doing the first 2 rows, but I want that even, and I want the top even. I'm gonna take my tape. We are going to apply tape, glasses down. We want to apply that right on the edge of the buffalo plaid. Okay? And then we are going to take a dome brush. Dome brushes are what you're going to use so that you don't bleed under your stencil. Dome brushes, it's so funny that traditional brushes are cut flat. They, when you push down on them with the stipple technique, they tend to curl out, and that shoves the paint right underneath your stencil. I've seen people use their foam brushes to do the dabbing. If you're going to be bold and be brave to try that, because maybe you just don't want to go buy something new, push off all the paint whenever you're using different things like that. The stencil brushes that are flat, any kind of foam, you want to really make sure to take all the paint off your application tool. All right, so, and I'll show you what that looks like. So we're going to come over here on my paper towel, and we're going to get some black paint. We're using, these are honey bottles, and we buy our paint in giant containers. And so we just put them in these small honey bottles so that we can have them on this beautiful paint wall. Isn't that gorgeous? We got a little fun day, and we decided we wanted to make a wall of color. So we love it. Okay, so we're gonna go into our black. We're going to, oh, and it's just plain acrylic paint. Gonna rub off all the paint, and then we're gonna come on to our surface. And then this is the part that I think is really interesting, and I've learned a new technique from one of Lena's videos, the should you swirl or should you stipple video. It's on YouTube, and if you go to our YouTube channel and you check that out, it'll just search on the YouTube channel and you'll be able to see it. So anyway, she was using this palette knife to like hold things down. So anytime you have these like stripes, or anytime you have, this is like a pro tip right here. When I was painting and getting ready for this, this live, anytime a stencil flops over the edge or has a lot of cutout, it tends to be more flexible. Okay, so like the amount of thickness of the material is fine, it's just how much it's pulling going over the edge. And this is a thicker board, so it's pulling a little bit more. So when that happens, it makes it bow, and then your paint can really sneak under there. So when I was doing some editing thing for the YouTube video, I don't edit them, but I was doing something with it. I was watching Lena's video, and she's using this palette knife to hold things down, and it was brilliant. So I'm gonna go just in these little areas. I've talked my brush completely dry. That's how dry you want your paint though, is you want it so dry that if you talk for a couple of minutes, you're not gonna be able to get any paint off of it. So we'll go back to it. And stenciling is a layers game, so you wanna make sure you are thin coats. You don't need to do anything heavy-handed. It's also all about control. You wanna control your paints and your mediums and your pressure, and that's what some of these videos will help you learn. Okay, and then we'll just keep going. And while we're painting Valentine, how about sharing who your favorite Valentine is? For some of you, it's gonna be those grandkids, your husband, boyfriend, whatever the things are. If you share that in the comments, that gets you entered into our drawing. So now that's so nice and light that it's actually dry already, so I can go for my second coat. Okay, and then we'll just apply second coat. And you could leave that, if you peek at that right now, so see that really soft gray? You could leave it like that and it would just be really understated. Okay, or you can put it back down and you can be like, nope, I want it a little bit more. And notice that I'm not going across these cuts, I'm going like with the grain, or I could stipple. And if you wanna watch that should I stipple or should I swirl video on YouTube, that will answer a lot of questions. Okay, so we'll just make that, do a couple layers. And then sometimes people have asked on these lives, we get a lot of questions. That's how we get like a lot of our inspiration and stuff like that for like what should we teach. I'm gonna finish this. I'm not going to finish this piece. I'm going to go back to this piece. But we get questions from people when you guys are on the lives and we're answering these questions. So that's how we know what you want to know about. I think I just wandered right there. I don't know what I did. Anyway, but one of the questions that we get back on it is how do you pick a color? So I'm going to show you a technique. So I'm on Pinterest, okay? And so I searched for Valentine decorations. And on Valentine decorations, you can see that there's all kinds of color schemes. So if you like black, red, and white, there's that. Here's one with a cream, black, and red on a canvas pillow. You can get so much inspiration on these things, and it just gives you little different palettes. Here's on wood. It gives you ideas, and you can even search for just like colors for spring, you know, and things like that. So that's how you can kind of pick your colors when you're trying to stencil. So you might win these stencils, but how do you paint with them? You might go onto Pinterest and look at that. iPads are wonderful, aren't they? Okay, so now we want to talk about some banding. So we're going to go across with our tape. This is our stretchy tape. This tape actually will turn corners. The thicker it gets, the less it turns, but the thin stuff goes right around in a circle. It's kind of magical. Okay, so I'm going to line this up right at the edge of what I've painted. And with all different masking tapes, they have a little bit of give to them. So if you're pulling on masking tapes and it seems like your line waves, that's because you pulled too tight. So you do want to be careful about making that straight. That's a beginner tip. Okay, so get two pieces because we want to do banding. And now I'm going to eyeball this because I tend to do okay with eyeballing. Depending on if you have astigmatism or not, depending on just like a lot of variables, but stigmatisms can make things lean quite a bit. But you can take out your t-square You could flip it over so it works right. You could make a mark and then make a mark and then come over here and make a mark and a mark. So you could use the t-square if you needed to. Okay? With thinner bands, I would probably skip it, but if you were doing a thicker band, I would probably do it. Okay, we're gonna use a dome brush, again, always. I love my dome brushes. I literally think for our company, I think we might own 1,000 of them, but sometimes we paint like 30 projects in a day with 7 or 8 people painting. You just need them. You need them to make it be awesome. Okay, so now we're gonna do our stenciling here on our band. One pro tip for this, if you are going to paint this and you're worried about anything bleeding under, because sometimes with tape that can happen, and this applies to like if you're doing walls or furniture or anything like that. Number one, you take the back of your thumb and you just really squeegee that down. Okay, so you just really, really get that tight. But you could do a coat of white paint on this. You can do that with stencils too. If you always get bleeding, no matter what you've tried and it just doesn't work for you, then you can do white background. You can do your white base coat, let that dry, and then apply your black on top of that, because the white, if there's gonna be anything leaking, the white will leak under, and then the black will be sealed. Like the tape will be sealed, and then you can do your black on top. Okay, so because this is a skinny line, I'm going to stipple more than swirl, and I also am out of room, so I could swirl, but I run the risk of doing what I call ghosting, which is making a mess on either side of your stencil. Okay, so we'll just get that line on there. All right, so I'm curious, how many of you decorate for Valentine's Day? And then do you decorate your house? Do you decorate your kitchen? Do you do one of those like 3-tiered, things? Do you do just the porch? Like, do you just hang a sign on your door? Like, I'm just real curious about that. I tend to be a one sign in my house kind of girl, but I have all boys, so I have 5 sons, and number one, if I'd have put it out, they'd have destroyed it, and number two, they didn't care. So, all right, and now that's not coated enough for me, so I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna stipple. Okay, so I'm super excited that at the end of this, we're gonna learn how to make one of those bows, because that, to me, I'm not a bow maker. So I'm excited that Carrie's gonna show us how to do a simple bow so that I always know how to get a bow done. All right, we're gonna remove the tape. Something that is an advanced technique is you wanna bend your tape back on itself when you pull your tape, especially if you've done a lot of base coats and it's a thicker line. If you bend it back, the edge of that tape actually cuts the edge of the paint. So that's actually the safest way to remove tape. If you pull it straight, if you pull it straight up, then you tend to have chipping on your paint. So you never want to take your tape off that way. All right, I'm gonna let that dry for a second, and I'm gonna do show and tell. And I want you guys to kind of vote, like which one's your favorite. So put this away. We have some other Valentine things that we have painted. This is Be Mine, and it's on a round surface, and that is stencil number 2621. And I love this one because it's an envelope. And this is stencil number 5543. So you can search these on StudioR12.com and you'll be able to find them. I love the fun of this project. This is just super sweet. And then we have Buffalo Plaid Through the Truck, which is just amazing and sassy. Neat thing about the Buffalo Plaid is you can buy these in a couple sizes, and then you have them for every season, and that you don't need to wash them until you've used them about 4 or 5 times, and then they get kind of cruddy. And once they get cruddy, if you just put them in a bin of hot soapy water, don't scrub at them too hard, and if you do, go in the direction of the cuts. But that's a super easy way to clean your stencils. It just softens everything, and you'll notice if you've used your stencil too many times, you'll notice that you'll start getting less detail in the cut areas. So that's when you want to wash your stencil. Okay, and then I Love You More. So I love the different applications of these, and then the different color palette. This was one that we saw at market last year, this color palette. And it's just like this, don't go all the way over red and white theme, and just a little bit more neutral. I really liked it. I've got 2 more. We've got a bunch of little ones. I need some more friends like you. So just a super thing, but what a great little gift. You could drill some holes, put a bow, and I forgot to tell you the stencil number. This is stencil number 3287. And how many did I miss? 2616 and 3293. I think those are the ones I missed. If I missed that envelope, we'll put it in the comments below. Okay, and this one, I love the cutout heart shape. I think that is so cool. This would look phenomenal on a wreath. 5626. Okay, so I hope that that inspires you for different kinds of palettes for Valentine's. Let us know which one you like the best. Okay, now I'm gonna show you the magic of how you base coat red. Red is a pita factor. It's terrible. Okay, so, and red and yellow are the two. I've been painting for 31 years, I think it is. I started painting when my last son was born, and I think he's 31. I never can remember the ages. Don't judge. Anyway, but I've been painting for that long, however long that is. And the funny thing about red and yellow is, I found this out through the years, the pigments for red and yellow are super expensive. So the paint manufacturers tend to put less of that really strong pigment in and more of the filler or whatever the thing is. So it's better to learn a trick for both red and yellow. And that trick is gray. It's a neat name for a trick, don't you think? Okay, I am going to show you what that means. So this is one that I based. This has 2 coats of paint on it. And this one right here has 7 coats of paint on it, if you can believe that. And if you notice, this is super splotchy, and then this one is already looking pretty solid. Okay, so what I did, let's go. I'm gonna go in a couple different directions at the same time. Get my gray paint out. Okay, now what's interesting about these little cutouts, they are reversible, so if you want your truck to go the other direction, you can flip it over. But if you want it to go that direction, because there's so many cutouts, I can see it. I don't know that you can see it from here. The stencil doesn't really pull tight to the surface. Usually, like with the word stencils, the bigger they are, there's more surface to pull them tight. This has got not so much. So we're gonna use the trick with the stencil adhesive. So this is just a little rolly tape, and it's repositionable. So to make this stick, I'm gonna flip it over, and then there's not a lot of big areas with this, so that's what the trick is. So I'm gonna go on the biggest areas, and I'm just going to apply where needed and where I can, because the more places I have it applied, the better off this will work. I did the original one over here without any stencil adhesive, and I tell you, I had to work at it just a little bit. Okay. So if you're watching this on our Facebook Live, where we're answering your questions live, let us know what techniques that you'd like to know something about, like what frustrations you've had. We really want to know. We really want to know where you're from. We really want to see your projects when you finish them. If you've bought a studio or 12 stencil, please share, because like literally this is you right there sitting in your house right now. You are why we do what we do. And when we hear from you, it just is so empowering to us. So please do share. Anyway, so back to our sticking, sorry. Okay, I frequently get squirrel ornaments because they say I'm the queen of the squirrels. So if I get off topic, the queen of the squirrel. Okay, so we're gonna go here, and then we're gonna stick this down. And I'm grateful I don't need glasses all the time, but sometimes it's a pain. All right, we'll stick that down, and this is something that is pressure sensitive, so you actually have to go on it and push them down just a little bit. Okay, good. And now we'll get our dome brush, paper towel. Make sure your paper towels are folded flat. If you use them wadded up, we were once painting in a workshop, and this poor woman sitting next to me, she was picking up her paint and then glomming it off, but it was like this really sensitive technique that needed just the right amount of paint left, but when you grab it and you glom it, it tends to like not be controlled. And so if you leave it flat, you'll know how much you're taking off and you won't be surprised. So we're gonna dry off our paintbrush. Like 5 times is usually pretty good, unless you've scooped, and then you might have to do a little bit more. And then what I do with the gray, so what happens is the red is a darker color, so it's probably a value of say like 8. If we're, I'm not even gonna get into values, but it's a darker color on the other side of the spectrum. This gray is somewhere in the middle, it's like a 4. The white is way down at 1, okay? I told you I wasn't gonna do it, but I did anyway. Anyway, so what we're gonna do is we're going to cut the white with some gray. And so notice that my stencil's not all wiggling around. I will show you on, well, I know I glued that one too. It was really a problem because of all the cutout space. And what's neat about this stencil is we base coated this white, and then when we get the red on there, when we reveal it, it's gonna have all your highlights already done. So I think that's one of the neatest things about using this kind of a stencil is it's like a screen in a way. Okay, so we get our gray on there. And you can do it on a black area too, where the tires are. And notice I'm using the swirl. Okay. And then, so that's so the difference between the white there, and you can see that that's a middle value. So that means that our red isn't gonna have to work as hard, and that's the problem with most of the reds. So on this truck, I have 1 coat right here of the red over the gray, and then I've got 2 other coats on this one. So I'm gonna finish this guy with my brush. Always put your stencil brushes in the water because paint is plastic. And the way paint dries is the air and the paint come together and they oxidize it. The air oxidizes the paint. And so because of that, that means that if you leave it out on your table, that your brush and the air and all the things are gonna be oxidizing and hardening. So definitely always in the water. And if you have a really fine brush, something with like a Taklon really needs to stay in its shape, then you rinse it out and don't leave it in the water. But these are dome brushes and they're fine in the water. Okay, so we're gonna go into our burgundy red. While you have this color out, you wanna go ahead and put a coat on your little hearts, which are so cute. I love embellishments and things like that with wood. We have, we're excited for the new year because we have so many new things coming in for this next year. Okay, so we're gonna go into a red. So while you're watching me base coat red, because that's super interesting to do, tell us what the weather is doing. Speaking of New Year's, it's still winter and we hate it. What's the weather where you are? I know a lot of you are gonna be from warmer places and I'm gonna be jealous. Okay, so get our red on there, but you can see how much easier and how much better that looks than that. So we'll just base. Yep, I think the 4th coat got that red on there. And then we'll let that one dry. And I've got a nice handy dandy little hook here. Thanks, Steve. A blow dry. And the way you tell if things are dry is you, if it's cold, it's still wet. So that's how you're gonna tell. So we get our other coats on there. I'm gonna switch and I'm gonna leave my brush right there because I know I'm coming back to it in a hot second, because that's not a cold second. So speaking of hot seconds, so I don't know who I learned that from. What are funny little sayings that you say about like your painting projects and stuff like that? Like mine is like, I wanna blow your hippie noodle, you know. Lena's is like, I like that, you know, that kind of thing. Oh, I love it, that's what it is. But yeah, tell us what your favorite little saying is. Oh, I'm going to show you the palette knife technique. So I'm going to go right here with the palette knife on the edge of this tire, and I'm going to stipple that tire, and it's going to do my masking for me as well as holding down the piece, which I don't need in this case, but so super easy way to mask, and that is a pro tip right there. Okay, that one done. Zoom. Okay, because I have all of this completed on the other one, I'm not going to do all the base coats because I think you get that you repeat the base coat. And I want to not bore you to tears. Make sure you're saying hi to people and are answering our chats, Noelle and Lena, Steve sometimes. Say hi to Randy, he's usually there too. Okay, and so now I'm going to get over here to these little hearts. I would repeat 2 or 3 coats of that black. So I'm going to take this off. Eee. All right, and do I need to tape that down? I think I'm okay. So now we're going to add some. I'm going to see what I did on mine. So we have some pink, some red, and some lighter red. So we'll go ahead and do the darker ones first. And those are going to be, gonna have to switch my brush. I love the big brushes the best, but they're going to be overkill here, and I'm going to need a couple of little guys. So we'll just go ahead and get out all of our pinks and colors. It's good to have them in all the sizes, but it's really good to have the big ones. Just when you get into tight spaces like this, you need to have smaller. Okay. Flip my paper towel over, and let's go paint some hearts. So just do a nice confetti. I really did try to walk my color through. I didn't want everything dark red in one place, so I tried to kind of wind it so that it would wind around. They're not quite spaced to do that perfectly, but that was like my intent. If I get a little bit of pink on one of the other areas, it's not going to be tragic. And maybe this little guy right here. And then we'll go in, I'll just neutralize my brush and use the darker pink. When you neutralize your brush, you're picking up the next color that's in a row, like so if you're in pinks or greens or something like that, you can transition from one to the other. So I'll neutralize once by dipping in the next color and wipe it all off. Now that makes my 2 colors the same, and it makes an equal starting ground. And then I'll go back into the color, and now it's strong enough and the right color to do. I call it neutralizing. I'm not sure that that's an actual technique, but that's what my technique is. So now I'll do that pink. And over yonder. So how many of you wish you had a paint wall like this at your house? Like I want one at my house. I have a studio at my house and I totally need a paint wall. Okay, so we'll get that done, and then we're going to go back into a red brush. That's a little bit bigger because these are bigger. I may need my palette knife. Okay, so we're going to go over here. Sometimes I stipple too when I want to base coat quicker. And so I will tell you what, this palette knife trick is the bomb diggity. This is the best thing, the best. It blew my hippie noodle. Oh, and did we notice new apron? Ta-da, I feel very official. We're gonna have them available in all the colors, like so many colors. Some are canvas, some are this like a little bit more like nylon material or something like that. stencil fan swag. Boy, that got me on Studio R12. We've got cups and more things coming. We've got so many ideas. If you guys have any ideas, please let us know because we want to give you what you want. How about that, right? How many times do you hear that a day? Okay. I have to tell you, I really love making signs to put around my house for decor. It's like just the neatest thing because it's so personal. You can totally make it any color you want. If you're not a red and white girl, you can be like, I want pink and black. You know, you can do whatever you want, and I just think it's the neatest thing. All right, now we need brighter red. While we have the brighter red out, I'll show you how to do a little bit of like highlight through your stencil as well. Okay. So, do you listen to music while you are painting? That's an interesting question. And then if so, what kind of music? I like, I don't know how many of you use an Alexa or any of the Google Home or whatever the other ones are called. She's listening. LOL. We'll let her finish. I'm chuckling in my head right now. That's so funny. That happens at our house all the time. One of ours is named, I'm not going to say it out loud, but it's the thing you use with the keyboard. But anyway, one of ours is named that, and she's like on it. If you say anything, she's like, hello, I'm here, what do you need? Anyway, but what kind of, music list do you listen to? That's where I was going with that. And I think, these fat palette knives are on our website. If you are in love like I am, you need one in your life. Now I'm gonna have to go back and get another pink brush. To clean these brushes, we use just a ginger grater. And the ginger grater is amazing because you can just really scumble it against, let's see which way am I gonna need to go. Scumble it against the little sharp pokey things, and that digs all the paint out of the brush, and it doesn't damage the brush. Okay. And now we'll just do random colors. And switch back and forth, go back to your red now that it's almost dry. So you can see right now why it's beneficial to have more than one brush, and you cannot use these brushes while they're wet. And speaking of these brushes, while we're base coating, make sure that you're like, sharing, and commenting. And send us little hearts when there's something, the little heart emoji things that float up. Make sure you do that when you see something that you really like, and that gives us clues because we go back and watch later just to be like what questions were asked and all of that kind of stuff. Make sure that you let us know what you like. And then also, we noticed that a lot of you are answering each other's questions when we're in the live part of the video. So make sure that you're encouraging other painters as well, because we really are a community of stencil fans. We just love to paint with stencils. That's why we're all here watching this, or painting here for you watching this. So make sure that you talk to each other. It's so much fun. It's neat to know other people that are into what you're into. Okay, gonna do a little bit more on the bright. And I think I'm gonna call it at this because I do have my finished one. Okay, let's talk about that highlighting. Let me get these in water. You can keep going as many layers as you want. I did them pretty solid here. So, you just go ahead and take it. But can you see this little bit of highlight I've got right in the middle of that? Let me show you how to do that. So you're gonna take, while your stencil is still on there, very generous red, barely wipe it off. And then you're going to just kind of scumble right on that door. And I would do it kind of a couple of times. I'd let it completely dry or blow dry it. Wherever you feel like you want a highlight. And that will give you just a neat high and low. And you could actually, let's take a little trip on a different technique for a minute. I could mix my burgundy in with a little bit of black. This is called a random, oh yeah, this would be cool to show you lesson. So I can get it into this like really nice dark burgundy, and I could take, let's see what's gonna be round. Wherever a round is going over the edge, like down here at the bottom of the bumper, I could scumble at the base of that and really give it a rounded technique. So you can totally do fruit. You can do, you know, boxes, spheres, any of that kind of stuff. You can totally give it a round look right through your stencil. So stencils are amazing because you don't have to like stop and trace and base and have control of like, you know, your line and all of that stuff. It's, having done it the other way for a really long time, doing things through a stencil is way easier. All right, I'm gonna call it on that, and I'll just go ahead and do a reveal on this so that you can see what this looks like. And, you know, that's kind of the direction we're going. It's not quite finished, but now we get to do the really cool thing, and we get to apply some glitter to our stars, our hearts. Okay, so I've got, this is a jewel glitter in red. And I don't have a piece of paper, but normally you do this over a piece of paper. I'm just going to do it on my palette. You do it on the piece of paper, and then you can pour it back into your glitter container. I'm going to use my multi-purpose sealer from Decor. Anything sticky, you could use varnish. Anything sticky that dries clear is what you could use. And I'll just use a dome brush and come down here, and I'm gonna use this palette knife because this is gonna get sticky. So just hold them down. Only do as many as won't dry. And if you're just joining us, hi, I'm Patty with Studio 12, and we come at you every week on a Tuesday and show you all kinds of painting techniques. And at the end of the video, we're gonna have Carrie come on and show us how to do bows, because you need to know how to do bows if you're gonna paint signs. All right, I'm gonna put that in water because that's gonna dry really hard. And I'm just going to sprinkle my glitter all over. I'm trying to be more careful than usual because I know I'm gonna waste this glitter. Ooh, there you go, tap the container. A really good idea if you use glitter a lot or you have a color you use is put it in an empty or a clean squishy paint bottle that has like a nozzle on it, and then you can just like, I can do that again, squeeze out the glitter, and that's super fun. So those are gonna dry while we're doing the rest of our project. Okay, take my trucks away. And now bring this guy back. So this is what happens when you use more than one stencil. You get to play. So you could take, say you were making cookies for somebody and you wanted to put them in one of those nice cardboard boxes. You could totally take just this piece of the stencil and you could just use that part. You could embellish that box with your buffalo plaid. We have these wonderful chevron. This is all of our pattern stencils and polka dots and music notes and chicken wire and all this kind of stuff. Holds together with just a little, I don't even know what these things are called, but somewhere in here I think there's hearts, snowflakes. When you need just a little pattern, like these are amazing, and these are on our website as well. So, and I have no idea what that product number is, but if you look for, okay, so now we're going to go and line up our stencil. And this might be where we want to take out our t-square and be like, how much room do we have there? Now, is it the same on this side? It is pretty rootin' tootin' close. I'm calling it. Okay. Yeah. So now we'll take our tape that down. So anyway, you can always use your parts and your bits, is where we're at. And don't forget that you can paint on pillows, your fabric, you can paint on t-shirts, you can paint on an apron, you can paint, and remember that your paint never comes out of your clothing if you make a mistake and you get paint on your clothes. So that means it's not going to come out of clothing that you intended to put the paint on. So you're safe that way. You can paint on floors, you can paint on everything with a stencil, and these are food safe as well. So you could paint cakes, cookies, hot cocoa, you can do anything with a stencil. They're magic. Okay, and now we're gonna paint the black lines, and I think that we'll get ready. I'm gonna just go ahead and do this area up here so that you can follow that, and then we're gonna glue things on and I'll show you how to finish it up. All right, so time to throw this guy away. And we'll dry off our brush. I use lighter paint and lighter pressure on this, so I don't want it super dark. And I'm not doing that heart. So I could do one coat, maybe two coats. And notice I'm going back and forth across. We're getting kind of towards our finish where Carrie's gonna come on and show us how to make bows. But why don't you remember to like, share, and comment, because we have the grand prize of that 7 stencils and we have the brushes. Ask your questions so that we know what questions you need us to answer. And let us know where you're from. I always want to know that. You notice I always ask that question. Okay, now we're going to go into our lettering. And so when we're stenciling our lettering, it's good just to go ahead and swirl. You really want to stencil more when you are doing big areas or things with cut lines that, like, if they start getting floppy, you want to stencil, and if you have things that are really secured, you're going to swirl. Okay, so when I want to know where to put my hearts, I'm going to go ahead and just give them a little swoosh of color, and then that's going to show me exactly where I want to put my hearts, and then the stuff is other colors. That trick that I showed you earlier about using Pinterest also helps you learn how to apply your paint in different colors to different areas. I struggled with this when we started doing stencils 8 years ago, 6 years ago, something similar in that time frame, probably about 8 years ago. When we started doing that, I didn't know how to carry the eye around. I was not thinking of it like a designer. I wasn't thinking of it in balance, and then I'd end up with like really heavy amounts of color up here, and then I'd get darker and darker and darker. And so I had to learn how to do that kind of thing. And I went to Pinterest and I learned from people who knew how to do it already. So love having an example of things. And then don't forget to paint it until it's pretty, because just because like you screw up something, like maybe you bleed under because you were doing too much pressure or too much paint, base coat that white, sand it, base coat it white, keep going. Don't give up. Your board and your surface mostly can be redone, so just keep going until you get it how you like it. Okay, so that's our little pattern area. Not as dark as the finished sample, but I think we have the finished sample to show us. When we're gonna glue our things down, there's a couple of ways that you can do what I do with my trucks. We'll do this guy. So your truck is kind of big, and I wanted mine to really just kind of fit in between the letters. I'm gonna bring him over here. So I wanted my heart to kind of cup right on in there and be associated with these hearts. And then I obviously didn't want my tires to be too far down. Okay. Now I wood glued these. I used the original tacky glue by Aileen's tacky glue, and that worked out really well. I was talking with Abby, who works here with us, earlier, and she was like, I need glue to stick now. I do not need glue that is gonna be like, wait 2 hours to dry. So she uses E6000. And E6000 is wonderful. Hot glue tends to pop off, and if you guys know the answer to that, I haven't tried to find the answer to it, so I just use different products because it generally, if I use hot glue, it'll eventually pop off, and I think it's because both surfaces are painted. But if you know the answer, please pop it in there because then I can't get the lid off. Okay. Then I'll know the answer. Okay. My iPad seems to be telling me something. All right, so we're gonna go with just a little bit of glue here and have a little music with my iPad. And then you'll just center it. And you're gonna wanna make sure, yeah, I got all the notifications coming in. It was a really good idea to use that until I have notifications. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're gonna make sure it's level. And that's pretty good. And press that. And you're gonna do the same thing with your hearts. You're gonna knock that glitter off. And I will turn that off in just a hot second. And then you're gonna use these to place them. Okay, let me get that. Okay, so then I can dip into the different colors, and I can put those right on top of wherever I want them. And doesn't that make it pop? It is so cool. All right, so then you're just gonna repeat. I'm gonna put the lid on that. You're just gonna repeat and then let them dry for a few minutes. If you needed to varnish, like say this is going out on your front door, I wouldn't worry about the little hearts, but I would varnish the piece on the front. I would varnish this piece, and you would want to be really careful if you varnish and then you try to glue. I feel like that's going to be a problem. So you might have to actually varnish around the piece. But anyway, you want to do that before you get everything on there and stuck, because glittering and varnishing don't work well together. All right, so now the moment we've all been waiting for, we're going to get Carrie over here, and she is going to show us how to make a bow. Okay, because I love the way this bow looks. And remember to like, share, and comment. I'm gonna put these away. Our grand prize drawing is 7 stencils. Come on up, Carrie. And our dome brush sets. All right, this is Carrie. Come on in here, girl.
Up on the podium.
Yep, up on the podium.
All right, perfect.
All right, and
Perfect.
Carrie is an interior designer and has worked in the floral industry at some point in her life.
16 years old, first job.
Yay.
You never forget how to tie a bow when you do it 7,000 times a year. No.
So we have a bow expert.
We have a bow expert.
Carrie's gonna show us how to make a nice simple bow that isn't gonna be too hard.
No.
So I'm gonna step out of the way and let you do it.
Okay. This kind of bow is the way to go so that you don't have to worry about holding your thumb. A typical way, if you're going to use ribbon, and whether it's wired or not, you can start the process by, I've got to remember how to do this here, but you basically, typically you're going to take a bow and you're going to do this half twist, and you're going to keep holding it into place and do these half twists, and then you have these beautiful loops, and then you can maneuver those loops, and you can do this up to 10 times on each side and get that really full bounty bow.
That would be
But
so hard to hold.
it's a lot to hold. It frustrates a lot of people. It takes a lot of ribbon.
Yeah.
So this is super easy. You are literally going to take, now we have a ton of different things to work from, and what I chose for this was a myriad of different textures and patterns because I loved the way there were different tones in this, and I wanted to represent that by doing some darker red, some pops of chevrons, some polka dots, just to keep that fun aspect.
So
So what you're gonna do is just do simple strips. Now in this case, I don't want it to come down too far to cover up our beautiful stencil work. So I'm not gonna cut these much longer than an inch, than 1 foot, 12 inches. And we're just gonna do little strips of ribbon, not very much at all.
I love that it saves the ribbon because that ribbon is expensive.
It is expensive
Like
stuff.
worse
Yes.
than blood.
Yes, it is. So I did 4 different patterns. And then I used some of the rope in this and actually fringed it out, which is really cute, but another easy way and another thing to use is some raffia. Not even very much raffia, so we're gonna pull that out.
Let's get you in the middle here so you can be seen.
Okay. So one thing I'm going to do is actually dog ear these little bits because I really like the finish more on these rather than a flat straight edge, just to give it a little more detail. So I'll fold the ribbon in half and just do a quick little V-cut on both ends, and that takes care of finishing it at the end so you don't have to do it later. So we'll do that on all four. And I am a lefty, but I use right-hand scissors because, you know, you just kind of learn how to do that.
Multi-talented Carrie,
Well,
everybody.
it's funny because my family decided, you know what, we're going to buy our left-handed scissors. I can't use them. It's ridiculous. But, you know, you get used to things.
I
So.
wonder how many left-hand painters we have out there in our audience today. That's an interesting question.
Yes, yes. So you're going to take these and basically you want to do an overlapping kind of texture so that in the center, when you bunch this together at the end, if they're going in different directions, it gives you a little more versatility as to how you can really fan that out and make it look really full. So I'm going to gather some of this raffia and pretty much do the same thing. Just give myself some short little sections to work with. And I'll go ahead and layer some there. Of course, I can cut this later as well, and that makes it easier sometimes.
Paint it till it's pretty also applies to making bows.
Most definitely, yes. I think I'll do one more.
I like the idea of the texture in that. That's really neat.
It makes it really fun. And then I'll keep a little bit of raffia for the very end because I'm going to tie it with that. So I've got it flat. I'm just simply going to take those two ends and get my finger up underneath the bottom so I can gather it. And I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of pre-scrunching. Hold it with one hand. Get that raffia around, or even another piece of,
You can use wire.
yeah, wire's
Yeah,
good.
the
Yeah.
jute like you did here.
And I'm finagling a little bit to make sure I hold on and tie, but get that pretty good there. Okay. So you give it a nice little tug, and you've got this nice little fun, funky little combination of ribbons here that you can maneuver now. You can pull them around. Say you want to pull that up a little bit more.
Yeah, they're not in their place, their final place until you decide they're there.
Exactly. And, you know, if you want that darker red to pop out a little bit more, probably should go ahead and knot that because I just noticed that came out pretty quick. So I'll go ahead and knot that in the
Raffia's
center.
great.
Raffia doesn't want to hold on too much, no. Okay, so I've got a lot of excess, which you can leave that. That's super cute to leave
Yeah.
it long. But that also gives you something that you can pull behind here and easily tie it to your project. But quick and easy and painless.
And any color, any kind of ribbon.
Any
Yeah,
kind of ribbon.
that
You
is
can do
amazing.
12. This is only 4. This is pretty simple. If you want it to be more robust, people call them rag bows. You can literally take
That's so cool.
fabric and go ahead and slice them thin and give yourself more of a rustic look, but fun application.
I love it. Carrie, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate you. Oh my gosh, she's amazing. All right, guys, that is our project today. We have painted for Valentine's Day. We have learned to make a bow. We've learned all the things. If you have enjoyed it, please make sure you like, share, subscribe. Let us know what you think in the comments, and we'll see you the next time.